Where are we going from here? Where do we go? Your mum's a hoe. With where we are right now for Black Ops 6 Zombies, in a stalemate between content, we've had the Tomb recently, although I know with how dead it is, it doesn't feel like it, and it doesn't seem like we are getting the next Zombies map for a while yet. I'm kind of, at the moment, at a loss for this game, which is really weird, right? Because we are not even halfway through its life cycle. If we are to believe the leaks that we are getting 5 DLC maps, and just in case you haven't figured out, I'm going to be specifically talking about the Zombies mode in this video because I don't play multiplayer and I don't play Warzone, but if we are getting 5 DLC Zombies maps, then we are closer to the launch of this game back in November when it was supposed to be fresh and new to us and exciting. And normally what happens as you go through a COD game's life cycle, every single year the Call of Duty cycle resets. We love it on launch, everyone's excited to play the new Call of Duty. We get bored of it a few months later around January when we realise that, okay, it's actually not that good, that initial hype has gone, and then come July, we get excited for the next Call of Duty again, and then in October, November, we get it, and the cycle repeats. I know that's a common meme and it's also a reality, but I also feel like that wasn't the case a long time ago. Back in Black Ops 1, COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 2, I don't remember having that feeling, definitely not as much as I do now. It probably was still the case, but one thing I remember is getting excited for every DLC map, and that would generally keep you going until the next one. The amount of content to do in each Zombies map would, for the most part, there are exceptions, Zetsubou no Shima, Die Rise, but it would keep you feeling fulfilled until the next DLC Zombies map released. However, with modern Zombies, it feels like they are pretty much dead on arrival. We had the Tomb, what, a couple of weeks ago, and literally 2 days after it released, there was nothing to do, no content to make from a YouTuber point of view, and just playing the game in general, you've done everything. There's nothing to discover, no ciphers, no hidden documents, no storyline aspects that can unfold. It was the same for Citadel Day More. We can take our minds back to Vanguard Zombies, let's not even talk about that, but Black Ops Cold War, Firebase C, Forsaken, it seems like the Day 1 maps, the launch maps, last a bit longer, and you'd expect that they're supposed to be the maps that are going to pull people into the game and make them continue to want to play it, so they have to be Trox's best. D Machine, I really liked. Terminus I thought was great, but it's what comes after. It's the DLC that is just really poor. And even saying that, that doesn't necessarily mean the base game is good. Of course, that's subjective. You might find one thing amazing that I think is trash, but the overall feeling that I get from modern day Zombies is just, it's nowhere near good enough. And I can only be honest and say the feeling I get is that Treyarch just don't know quite how to make a Zombies game anymore. They've lost it. Whatever it was they had between World at War 2, Black Ops 4, and I say Black Ops 4 because if you took away the special weapons and the new perk system that they added into that mode, it would still feel like a classic Treyarch Zombies. However, Cold War introduced modern Zombies that we know now, where they totally changed up the mechanics and added in systems such as armor and loadouts, and we've had these systems ever since then in Vanguard, Modern Warfare 3, and now in Black Ops 6. So from Cold War to now in Black Ops 6, I consider this the modern era of Zombies, and from World at War to Black Ops 4, Black Ops 4 was kind of an in-between. That was the moment where you could say, okay, it kind of feels like Treyarch are trying to shift towards something new here, but it's still keeping elements of that old Zombies mode, but it was in Black Ops Cold War where they truly came into fruition, and they've stuck ever since. And the question I'm left asking is, well, has that been a good thing for this mode? Has this mode continued on the trajectory that it was on from World at War to Black Ops 3 or 4? Has it continued to go up and improve, get better every year, gain new fans, or has it run into a stalemate or even gone downhill? And I can honestly say, just judging from the community's reactions that I've seen on Twitter and YouTube, and my humble opinion, I think modern Zombies sucks when you put it into perspective. When you know how good this game mode could be or was, and then you look at what we've got now in Black Ops 6, I just look at Cold War, I look at Vanguard, I look at Modern Warfare 3, and I look at Black Ops 6 and I say, what the hell has happened to this mode? Just quickly, by the way, if you are enjoying the video so far, a like rating is appreciated, but more than anything, if you could click that subscribe button, I'll give you a moan. Have you done it? Okay, I'm just waiting for you to click it. I know it's going to take a couple of seconds. That's it. Just take your mouse down there, or if you're on your TV screen, pick up your remote. I'm sure you can find it. Have you done it? Thank you. Trying to be nice, which is difficult because I absolutely love COD Zombies. So because I've got so much passion for it, it really frustrates me. But at best, it's average, which pisses me off, having played this since 2010, knowing once upon a time, Call of Duty Zombies was amazing. It was the unique mode of COD. It was something totally different, had its own storyline, an amazing set of characters, some amazing maps that you just wouldn't see in the multiplayer, an insane, convoluted, juicy, fully packed storyline, confusing, but if you took the time to understand it and learn it, then it was so interesting. Whereas now pretty much every single aspect of modern COD Zombies I find is unimaginative, to the point where this may not be the case, but it feels like Treyarch just aren't putting their full effort into it, or if they are, which is even worse for me, then they've lost it. They don't know how to make Call of Duty Zombies anymore, and I don't think that's the case. I think this is exactly what they wanted to make. This is exactly the path that Treyarch wanted to take Call of Duty Zombies down. I know a lot of people love this modern Zombies, they prefer it. I know a lot of people don't, but to me that shows surely it's not as good. The amount of arguing I see on Twitter now over their opinions on this game, which shouldn't be the case, right? If you like it, great. If you don't, that's also fine. You're both free to express your opinions. But is it just me when I say this? I didn't notice this divide, this conflict in the community back during the older era of Zombies. Everybody was more or less on the same page. We enjoyed it. Cold War then came along, totally changed up the mode, and all of a sudden the community became split. One side that thought it was good, one side that thought it was bad, and that brought so much animosity that I also don't think's helped the situation either. So anyway, I kind of wanted to get into it a little bit deeper. I've gone on a bit of a rant there, but talking about some of the specifics of what I think's happened here. Again, this is all just in my opinion, and it's all stuff that I truly feel. It may not be the case, and it probably isn't, but it's just how it comes across to me now. One of the things the community loved about old Zombies, which isn't present now, is from World at War 2 Black Ops 2. There was someone called, just in case you weren't around then, Jimmy Zelensky, who was kind of the front man. He was the director of Zombies. He wasn't too involved with the community, but every now and again you saw him come on video and he would explain things. Now, him being there or not, I honestly don't think would have made any difference at all. People only still talk about him because that was a greater era of Zombies. We had some great maps, plus it was the beginning, so people would often bring him up and credit him for Call of Duty Zombies, and rightly so. He was known as the man behind COD Zombies, and then he left, I think, at the end of BO2 and was replaced by Jason Blundell from Black Ops 3 to Black Ops 4. Jason took his place and became the director of Zombies. He became more involved with the community, doing interviews with YouTubers. Looking back at it now, there actually wasn't that many he did, which surprised me because it felt like there was loads, but Jason Blundell was, and it felt like he was the Call of Duty Zombies man. And one of the other reasons for that is you would hear him speak in videos and you would then see that translate into the game. He would be so passionate about ciphers, and we would then go and find them in the map, and he would have Jason Blundell subliminally in the back of your mind, because when you thought of ciphers, you thought of him. Now, of course, if we had a lot of Bad Zombies maps or Bad Zombies games during his tenure, then his reputation wouldn't be as good, and people would think back of him as being, well, not that great of a Zombies director, even though the role he played in the community I don't think was actually that crucial to BO3's success. 99% of it is what he did behind the scenes, and if you look at Jimmy Zelensky, that's proof of that. He wasn't really involved in the community, but he's still spoken of highly because of his maps. Jason didn't have to be involved in the community. He didn't have to do interviews with people. All he had to do was create great maps during his tenure, and that would have been enough. However, he didn't. He went beyond that, and I think that really pushed Black Ops 3 to being the best. That doesn't mean the best in terms of numbers or in terms of player base. I couldn't begin to tell you, and I actually think it's the modern day Zombies which are more popular. In terms of player count, there are loads of other things that come into play with that, how easy the game is now and how accessible. But if you look at interest of Black Ops 3, you go on YouTube and look at viewership for Easter egg tutorials or storyline and Easter egg related videos, they are way higher. So many more people were watching and interested compared to modern day Zombies. That's not even questionable. So whether you thought that time was bad or good, it was without a doubt the most popular time in Call of Duty Zombies history, when players were the most interested, and there's a reason for that. Every aspect, the gameplay, Easter eggs, and the storyline specifically, was at its peak. Everybody wanted to know about it and play it. So he was a great Zombies director. I actually think he was the co-director along with Craig Houston, if I'm not wrong, but Craig does more of the storyline specifically, and he's been there since the beginning as well. Jason was the frontman like Jimmy, and then he left at the end of Black Ops 4, and then in Cold War, I can't remember if this was the moment that Kevin Drew took his place, or if he became the associate director a little bit later on, perhaps during Vanguard or Black Ops 6. I'm pretty sure it was during Cold War, but there was also the time when we saw this drastic shift in COD Zombies to what it is now. Almost every aspect of it was changed. The perk system, gameplay mechanics, armor, loadouts, there was a new storyline, we had operators, everything. That was the moment that Call of Duty Zombies totally changed from a mode that kept a relatively similar formula, however every game still felt different enough, to totally changing up that formula, but still with every game since then keeping it, feeling more or less the same. And that's weird, right? There is a big shift in how Black Ops 4 and Cold War feel, however there is a tiny shift on how Cold War and Black Ops 6 feel. But I think there's a bigger shift between how World at War and Black Ops 1 feel. how Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 feel, how BO2 and BO3 feel. Yet those games also keep the same formula. So why did they feel so different between one another compared to modern zombies, when I would say both era of zombies change about the same amount of things, which is not much, but these new games don't feel unique between themselves. However, Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 did, Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3 did, Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 did. Why is that? I actually don't think that's got anything to do with zombies and everything to do with Call of Duty HQ and Modern Warfare 2019, which is when this began. Even though since the beginning of time every COD's been on the same engine, it just gets upgraded every year. With every Call of Duty being on COD HQ now, I don't know the internals on this, I don't know game development at all, but is COD HQ the reason why every Call of Duty has to feel the same? Because it does, and Zombies is suffering because of that. That one has nothing to do with the COD Zombies team and everything to do with Activision. Is that the reason why we don't have different feeling COD games between developers anymore? Is that the reason why we don't have the cartoony Treyarch games and then the more realistic Infinity Ward games and then the whatever Sledgehammer games we had? All three of these developers feel like they make a very similar Call of Duty nowadays, whereas back in the day that wasn't the case. You could tell the difference between a Treyarch game and you could tell the difference between an Infinity Ward game. I like that because it felt like you were actually purchasing a different game every year, whereas now they all feel the same. So whatever's going on here, I think it's something to do with every COD being on HQ now. If you didn't like one game one year, then you could just wait the next year because you would be playing a COD that would at least feel different. Whereas now, if you hate this year's COD, well, next year's is also probably gonna feel the same. And at this point, I think we're all like, we understand COD's shit, but we're gonna buy it and we're gonna play it because it's COD. Or from a Zombies point of view, you want to play Zombies, right? But there's no point missing out and waiting until the next one because they all feel the same. There's not really going to be a difference when it comes to the gameplay side. The only thing Treyarch really have big influence on is the storyline, the Easter eggs, the map's mechanics such as loadouts, armor. Okay, that's a lot, but how the game actually feels, which if you've been playing long enough, you will understand totally what I mean. They all feel and play pretty much the same now, which is crazy when you think about it, right? We all used to say, hey, COD's the same every year, when realistically, they felt slightly different. Yeah, we really took that for granted because COD actually is the same every year now. But getting back to what I was saying about the directors, from the start, World at War to Black Ops 2, we had Jimmy Zelensky. From Black Ops 3 to Black Ops 4, we had Jason Blundell. And then from Black Ops Cold War to now in Black Ops 6, we have no one. Well, at least that's what it feels like. We actually have Kevin Drew, who was the associate director, but in reality, I can only be 100% honest. It doesn't feel like there is anyone, and there definitely doesn't have to be. In fact, I think Treyarch's probably one of the only game developers in the world who does this. You don't look at Rockstar and say, okay, who is the frontman? Who is the person communicating with the community? You don't look at Naughty Dog or Insomnia and say that. Treyarch was really unique in that aspect, which was great, but not necessary. But it was just a point that I wanted to make up because it kind of goes hand in hand with everything else that I feel is wrong with modern Zombies. How it's lost its character, its atmosphere, its uniqueness, almost everything that it spent years building up. Black Ops 6 should have been the game that was going to bring it back. Treyarch have had 4 years to make it. That's more years than any Call of Duty in history. So you would think if there was a COD that was going to return Zombies back to its glory days, there was no excuse of Treyarch not having time to develop it. There's no excuse of budget cuts, it's had a massive one. All the excuses that you had for Cold War, Vanguard and Modern Warfare 3 didn't exist with this game, yet they've still not achieved it in my opinion. And if they can't do it in this game, then that's it. Call of Duty Zombies is never going to be great again. If they couldn't capture that feeling in this game, no other COD is going to get 4 years of development again. BO6's situation was very unique, so if they couldn't capture it in this game, then for me they've well and truly lost it. That doesn't mean it still can't be good. The gameplay is just okay, the storyline is just average. There are certain aspects which are really exciting, but it's far few in between. Being that I make Call of Duty Zombies content, I honestly haven't watched a Call of Duty Zombies YouTuber since maybe Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2. I just don't watch Zombies content on YouTube anymore because, well, one, a lot of it is just the same as what I make, so I'd be watching videos that I already know about, and two, it's just not really the type of content I watch on YouTube anyway. I never did, even during Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2. I would watch Zombies videos every now and again. I always wanted to do it myself. The only videos I would watch were storyline related stuff that you wouldn't really be able to understand by playing the game yourself. So you'd be playing World at War in Black Ops 1, you'd find something and say, okay, but what does this mean? And then you'd go on YouTube, watch someone like The Lonely Mailbox and listen to them explain it. I love that. I love listening to other people give their opinions or theories and ideas on zombies lore. And so because I started doing that myself, I stopped watching zombies YouTubers altogether because, well, I pretty much know about that stuff myself now. I enjoy explaining it myself, but I do every now and again like to listen to other people's theories as well. So I haven't watched zombies content on YouTube for a very long time, but I did see Milo post a video. I wanted to know, well, what's he actually feeling about the game nowadays? In fact, if I ever do watch a zombies video, he's pretty much the only one I watch. I like how he presents stuff. And fun little fact, something I've just remembered, back during Modern Warfare 3, I really hope I'm not making this up, when I was a tiny YouTuber, I hate that, it's so cringe, when I was a tiny content creator, when I had a small YouTube channel of about 10,000 subs, I think, I left a comment on one of Mr. Ruffle Waffle's videos. I couldn't begin to tell you what it says, but he replied to that, and I remember that feeling of a bigger YouTuber. I think at the time he would have had maybe 100k subs, 60, but that feeling of having this bigger YouTuber at the time reply to you, me being this, I don't know, 16-year-old kid, 17, I just really appreciated that. That's one of the reasons why I try to reply to as many people as I can. It's really difficult sometimes. But getting back to what I was saying, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm pretty sure, just from memory, in a recent video he said something along the lines of, it seems like the focus is so much on the battle pass nowadays, bundles and skins, when you think of how much time and effort these developers put into that stuff, that could be redirected to zombies. You have these artists making all of this sick content for bundles. Imagine if those artists instead spent time creating better atmosphere for zombies maps instead of adding character into bundles. If all of that time and effort was spent in adding character to maps, increasing their atmosphere, detail. That's another thing that didn't cross my mind. Is it just a coincidence that the moment this mode went downhill was also the moment that the battle pass became introduced and loot boxes even in Black Ops 4. Yeah, I'm just super disappointed in Black Ops 6 because if you watched any of my videos prior to its release, you would have heard me say 1,000 times, I'm so excited for this game. The main reason being it's had 4 years of development. Surely that must mean Treyarch have got it right this time. Surely that must mean at least some elements of those older zombies games Treyarch have managed to recapture again. Besides from Terminus and Citadel de Mort a tiny bit, these maps are lacking any kind of atmosphere or character. Liberty Falls is a cool map, but it has no atmosphere. The Tomb is so average. Citadel de Mort isn't that much better. I think Terminus is probably the best map on this game and one of the better maps that we've had of the modern zombies era. The characters that we play as, Weaver, Carver, Grey and Maya, have nothing on Primus, Ultimus, the Shadows of Evil characters, called the Dead Cast, the Mob of the Dead crew. They are very bland. Weaver is about the only character that's worth having any interest in because of his connection to Samantha and Richtofen in the storyline. So he's got some worth, but Grey might as well not be there. She's providing nothing other than her love story with Samantha. Ooh, boring. Carver, we know, is super boring to the point where it's a meme, and Maya's storyline ended in Citadel de Mort where she killed Franco. So why is she even still with the crew? For the 100th time, I'm going to be honest, I don't think this cast of characters is really any more interesting than when we played as operators in Cold War. I'm not gaining a connection to them. I'm not really interested in anything they say because they don't say anything interesting. We may as well just have operators again. And you know what? Actually, I'm surprised by none of that because they were only ever intended to be side characters. Take your minds back to Cold War. What was Weaver, Grey, Strauss and Carver's role? They were side characters that would talk to you through intercoms. Treyarch never intended for these characters to be main casts. They intended, if Cold War was successful, to continue on with operators, because that brings them in the most money. Treyarch could have very easily given us a main cast of characters in Cold War. They didn't because they wanted to go down the operator route. I'm guessing a lot of that was down to Activision telling them to do this because it's going to bring us more money in. And then with all of the backlash because of that in Cold War, we eventually got a main cast in Black Ops 6. But for some odd reason, I guess because they were already a part of the storyline and BO6 is a continuation of Cold War, Treyarch decided to make what were side characters now our main cast. And well, the problem is they were side characters for a reason, because they were never interesting enough, besides from Weaver, to be the main crew. And now we're seeing that play out in Black Ops 6. Weaver, Carver, Grey and Strauss, Maya's a bit different, were never intended to be anything more than side characters. Treyarch should have introduced us to a brand new cast specifically made up for zombies. And by the way, that's not necessarily to say what they did couldn't have worked. You look at Richtofen, Takir and Klein Dempsey, before they were zombies characters, they were campaign characters. The difference is though, they were never initially side characters in zombies. Treyarch just took their models from the campaign and then completely redesigned their characters, their personalities, their voice actors, everything. So that's not the best comparison. I just knew people would bring that up, so I wanted to mention it. And also, whatever happened to celebrity cast of characters? We could play as people like Jeff Goldblum in Shadows of Evil, Michael Madsen in Mob of the Dead, Sarah Gellar in Call of the Dead. We've had some amazing celebrity cast of characters that we've been able to play as in COD Zombies. Why is that gone now? We are still halfway through this game, so maybe it's going to happen in DLC 3 or 4 or 5, but I wouldn't hold out hope. Another thing that I've begun to question, I thought it was cool at first, but why have Treyarch reintroduced the Chaos story again? There was a reason why it failed in Black Ops 4, there was a reason why it got cut, because people just weren't interested in it. I know it's got its small fan base out there, but overall you can't argue that it just wasn't that popular. There was a good reason for that, and so it's just weird to me that Treyarch thought it was a good idea to reintroduce it and make it one of the main talking points of the Black Ops 6 story. I didn't mind at first. I actually thought, okay, this will end up being cool, but the more we've gone on, it seems like Chaos has kind of taken away from the Dark Ether story, to the point where I'm now thinking the storyline that Treyarch told in Cold War was so much more interesting than what they've currently told in Black Ops 6. Yes, we've still got Richtofen's whole plot of Weaver and Samantha killing his family and what he's trying to do right now. When they first brought up the Sentinel artifact and Terminus and made Chaos really canon, I thought, okay, this is going to be cool, I'm interested to learn here. But then we've had Citadel Amor and now the Tomb, where the storyline hasn't really progressed that much. And it's got me thinking, hang on, we're going back into that old cycle of where we have a less interesting Chaos story taking over from the more interesting Ether story, where now I'm criticizing them adding it in because it just feels like Chaos has made Black Ops 6's storyline stale. I'm trying to understand Treyarch's thinking here. Why would they reintroduce it? If they were planning to make it way more exciting than it is right now, great, but it's not. The whole idea of the Sentinel artifact and the 9, all of the 15 whatever radios we have in the Tomb of Alistair talking to Archibald, oh my god, it's boring. We've come full circle here where Treyarch have continued the Chaos storyline in Black Ops 6, but they've forgotten one of the reasons why it was cut in the first place. People found it boring. People were always more interested in Ether. Dark Ether is a continuation of Ether, so that was fine. Did they just not at one point think maybe it's not a great idea to reintroduce Chaos? Because people just weren't that interested in it, so why would we do it? Unless they were planning on making it way more exciting than it is now, that decision to me just doesn't make sense. Not to mention through the Intel so documents and radios, there's hardly any conversations about Richtofen and Samantha, which is what people want to know about. In the DLC maps, Citadel and the Tomb, there's really nothing exciting for us to learn about for the storyline, which has caused a huge drop off in interest. People aren't bothered, so by the time we do get to the end in DLC 4 or 5, well, you've lost half of your audience because you've bored them to death. And when you're releasing maps such as the Tomb, you're killing your own game. I know a lot of people are using the excuse that it's supposed to be filler, which I don't think is valid at all. Treyarch see this as a proper DLC map. People are just using that excuse because it's bad and they can't see any other reason other than it being filler, when really, this is just the standard of modern zombies maps now. But them doing that and them giving us stuff like Death Perception, no one wants that. What a boring, unimaginative perk. Adding in reused annoying bosses such as the Amalgams and then the Shock Mimic was unnecessary, especially when you take into consideration Treyarch knew about the boss spam in Liberty Falls. Coming against 6, 7, 8 manglers at once on a single round was a huge complaint in the community, to the point where Treyarch changed it. So they were aware of boss spam, yet in the Tomb and Citadel to a certain extent, they've just continued it. So it's like they're not listening or they don't understand. Don't do this. It's not fun. I've been talking for over an hour now. I don't know what I'm going to cut this video down to. I could go on for another 20 minutes. To me, it feels like Treyarch don't know how to make zombies anymore. They've lost it. They don't understand that it's not as simple as making a map and recycling perks and enemies. Honestly, the number one thing for COD Zombies for me is uniqueness and specialness. If you can capture that, then okay, you can add annoying enemies. You don't have to add new perks. Black Ops 3 hardly had any new perks. I think just one, Widow's Wine. But there was no complaints because Widow's Wine was actually good. The new perk that we've had in Black Ops 6 was Melee Macchiato. It's ass, apart from on Citadel. So it doesn't feel like we've got a new perk. But none of that matters as long as you are able to recapture what made zombies special. Honestly, I think more than anything, as long as you've got a good cast of characters and then you've got maps that feel magical that you look up and say, wow. Think of Origins, you look up and see those giant robots. Think of Der Eisendrache, you see the castle. Even World at War and Black Ops 1 maps, they had atmosphere. I will say, some of that is also down to just graphics being so good now, because World at War 2 Black Ops 3's graphics were not realistic. They didn't feel super HD, although very good towards the end. When you've got bad graphics, it's easier to make the atmosphere feel more gritty and dark. So I agree Treyarch have to work harder now that the game looks so good, but I don't think it's impossible. And when I look at campaign missions such as that Modern Warfare 2019 one where you're going through the house in London, the atmosphere and the vibe that you get from that was Infinity Wood, but Treyarch have also done it on Black Ops 6 on the mission, I can't remember what it's called, but when you're in her head, going through all of those places, certain campaign missions are an example that it's possible to achieve an atmosphere and a magical feeling on maps, but for some reason, they're just not able to do it anymore. Is that due to a lot of old developers leaving and then these newer ones don't understand it? I don't necessarily think so. It's hard to put my finger on it. The storyline is still relatively interesting. There are points when it peaks massively and you can't wait to carry on, but they're far few in between now. The gameplay, either you love it or you hate it. There's no difference between games. So if you like Cold War, then you'll like this. There's some cool Easter eggs. I've never thought any of that was the priority. It has to be the characters and the maps. If you've got good characters, then it really helps the story, but that's all encircled around the idea of character, magic, atmosphere, detail, uniqueness, specialness, all stuff that Modern Zombies doesn't have.